That is at the end of narrating an audiobook. Coyote's voice is a little raspy. Happy full moon, happy eclipse day, and I have a special for you. Kristin and I sat down and talked about something that I think is very important that we have not maximized around here enough. I wanted to get Wile E. Coyote in here, and now we're going to bring in Kristin, talking about lucky stars.
Yeah, I think that you did come up with a great connection, and I'm excited to dive deeper.
You were still thought in the universe's incarnation to be category when all of this took place. I was, good Lord, I was almost out of college when this started. So that sets that up. But we're going back to the presidency of Ronald Reagan. He was United States president between 1980 and 88. And of course, most people who know he was a former actor in Hollywood, a B-grade actor, and then he became interested in politics, caught a wind, became the governor of California. And I know when he passed, the parade routes were lined with people for miles as his body was being taken to his burial out at his library. He was a very popular president, and people remember him well. In fact, what is your impression of the Reagan administration?
Well, as somebody who was born in California and my family lived out there for a very long time, I think that it was probably one of the greatest presidents that my family connected with. But he was also the governor of the state we lived in. So I think that also was a big factor. But when it came to the presidents that you put on a pedestal, he's always been one.
See, that's interesting because obviously you never saw one of his press conferences or addresses from the Oval Office live, but you can go back and watch them on video. So you can still get a good essence of who he was and what he was about. He was elected in I would say landslide. The big landslide was his second election, but he was elected solidly in 1980 and was sworn in January of 1981. Now think about that, sworn in January. And then on March 30th, so just 2 months and 10 days basically later, he was giving a speech to the AFL-CIO convention at the Washington Hilton. It was a 30-foot space between the door and his limousine. It was basically this sidewalk, but a crowd had gathered. And in that crowd was John Hinckley Jr., and he had a .22 caliber revolver in his hand. And he stepped out in front of the Secret Service and ripped off 6 shots. He was a terrible shot. None of them hit President Reagan. But a bullet did ricochet off of the limousine and hit his left underarm. It broke a rib, it punctured his lung, it almost hit his heart. He had serious internal bleeding that wasn't detected at first. He did survive, obviously, and went on to this incredible presidency. Right after that, Nancy, his wife, contacted a lady in San Francisco by the name of Joan Quigley. She was an astrologer. Nancy had used her when they were in the governor's office, and she asked Joan Quigley, could you have seen that assassination attempt in the chart? And Joan Quigley said yes, she would have. And I can tell you what it was because it's very clear. And this is the kind of thing that we're talking about because we're looking at this kind of stuff every month and reporting it on Lucky Stars. What she saw was literally, Kristin, on the hour that he was in that hotel giving that speech. During that hour, the sun was in Aries, and it conjoined Mars at 10 degrees. It moved from 9 to 10 degrees, conjoining Mars in Aries while he was giving that speech.
Wow.
And it was in the 4th house and was directly opposite Saturn and Jupiter in the 10th house. So when you put all that in mundane astrology terms, you get that there was this attempt to silence Saturn, delay Saturn, dethrone Saturn, the king. And it was a very big attempt, Jupiter. And of course, with the sun and Mars down in the 4th house, it would have put him below the horizon in the shadows, silenced. Astrology saw that, and that's what Quigley reported back to Nancy Reagan, at which point she checked with her husband, and he said, if that makes you feel better, then go ahead and hire her. And they hired Joan Quigley to the tune of $3,000 a month to advise on the presidential schedule. And let me give you this. This is going to sound so much like a Lucky Stars calendar. I pulled this from an article that was written about this. So here's what her schedule would have looked like. January 16th through 23rd, very bad. January 20th, nothing outside the White House. Possible attempt. February 20th to 26th, be careful. March 7th, bad period. March 16th, very bad. March 21st, no. No trips. No then. So stay home April 21st to 28th. Stay home. But she did advise in many political things. In fact, she would set the schedule and deliver it to the chief of staff who had to implement it. And that created a real rift between him and Nancy Reagan to the point where it all blew up, where everybody wrote books after the administration. Quigley wrote a book, Nancy wrote a book, and Michael Deaver wrote a book, and then it all came out. That's when it was announced that the Reagans were using an astrologer. And I mean, the media went nuts back then. Oh, no. Mm-hmm. The United States was being governed by astrology? But he went down as the best president of this generation through astrology. What I was realizing, now the other thing that's been written about Joan Quigley is that she also used void of course moons and the last aspect before the moon goes void of course. All things that we incorporate into Lucky Stars. And what dawned on me was that we're sitting here on something that was governing the government of the United States of America for 7 years. And I think more people should subscribe to it. I just think this is incredible.
Yeah, it's such a great learning tool at looking at what could the day bring and just kind of helping to set up to move with the energy.
Well, each month you give us basically the same things that she was giving here. It's almost like red light, green light, yellow light.
Right.
So originally we started talking about this in the context of Lucky Stars, and your introduction to it was from somebody who was doing something related to gambling, where you could say, hey, maybe on these days, lean into something if you want to buy a lottery ticket or whatever. I don't gamble myself, you do, and you've had great success using this system. But what I'm realizing is that we can take this to a much higher level of this kind of thing. And then, of course, what Quigley was doing that we can't do, but everybody can do with what we give you, is apply this to your own chart.
Yeah, you're right. It did start off as gambling, but I will say it has made quite a transition now in the year and a half that I've been kind of looking at charts in this perspective. I think that when it comes to luck, I don't always see it as gambling luck. Sometimes it's luck in relationships. Sometimes it's luck in finding a new job. Sometimes it's luck in just being able to move through the day and get more organized. I think that using a lucky day can be for whatever you want it to be. And really kind of moving your chart into the lucky day and seeing what aspects are hitting you personally can really help with both your relationship with astrology, but as well as making sure that those days are used to the fullest based off of the houses that they're in for you, or really kind of making it personal.
Well, I know one of the things we'll do in the recordings coming up is take them more to this level instead of, oh, this would be a good day to go gamble, which we don't do now. But I'm just saying, if that was the context that you were perceiving this to be, we're going to take it from, here's the monthly calendar that we're delivering to the chief of staff of you and your life. And these are the days that you should stack things into. These are the days you should avoid stacking things into. So I think if we can put it into a better context, I'm just amazed that we're charging $5 a month subscription for this. People can support the podcast from it. Kristin and I split the money right down the middle. And we should be charging $3,000 a month. That's what Nancy paid in the 80s. She got the same thing because you factor in voids, of course, and you factor in last aspects. All of that goes into the selection criteria, right?
Yeah, I look at void of course, last aspects. I really like to look at formations as well as dispositors. Who is answering to who? I think all things are a part of the factor, and just what shape is the chart making and what are the relationships between the planets for that day.
Well, let's just ask the question then. If you were analyzing a lucky stars chart, not for the President of the United States, but just for a good old lucky stars in November, let's say, and you came across that the sun was conjoining Mars in Aries on a day, and it was opposite Saturn, opposite Jupiter, how would you have scored that if it was just based on that criteria?
Well, at least a cautionary, because with the Mars in Aries, that is such a strong position. And with Saturn and Jupiter, Jupiter makes everything bigger. And Saturn is the one that brings kind of blocks or can bring walls that you kind of have to push through. And the opposition is that call for balance. Now, for Joan Quigley's chart in particular, it is a Capricorn rising chart. So that puts Saturn and Jupiter at a big play in this and really kind of is the main conjunction of that chart. The Mars and Sun at the other end are triggering that Jupiter and Saturn. And so having them be in Libra in particular, the sign of relationships, and having that opposition to the Aries really shows that there could be some contention.
It really blows my mind that this kind of information of what you were going through right there was literally being used to govern this country.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
It really is. And you think about how that could be applied to your life and to the days and weeks of the month that we cover every time and deliver to you the week before the month starts. So you have a whole week to map it out onto your own chart. And we're going to take it up a level. But if you get in now, it will still be $5. Those of you that are in at $5 will stay at $5, but we might take it up to $3,000 one day. I don't know. We'll see. Or for somebody. But I'm realizing that what you're hearing, not only on the Fun Astrology podcast through the week, but what we're covering on the side over here, very focused and specific, is enormous information.
It's been such a fun project to work on, and the evolution of it has been really great. And I think that just hearing people's testimonies from using the days has really helped me as well. And again, moving forward, we are going to give it some love. And so I hope that what we are putting together now, we look back on it and we say, wow, that's where we were, but look at where we are now.
Yeah, for sure. This could keep you from a bad accident. It could keep you from trouble. It could also have you lean into something where if you have a job interview or some important engagement in your life and you choose a lucky day for it, as we've heard so many times from so many of you, it could come out very positive. So from now on, Lucky Stars gets an upgrade. we're going to make it a lot bigger of a deal, Kristin. So thank you very much. And I hope that folks who are not in it will subscribe. How do you do that? Go to either hightimelineliving.com and go down and find the Lucky Stars link and just click on it. It will take you right there to the registration. Or if you don't want to go there, you can go to where we have it for $5 at buymeacoffee.com/funastrology, and you'll see the membership there. We would love to have you in it. It's going to get an upgrade. You're going to like it, and it's going to be an amazing tool for your life.
Thank you all for listening. Happy full moon eclipse. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. Much love. Talk soon.